Welcome back to Waste Some Time with Jason Green. I am Jason Green, live in person. Very rare to be live in person. And you can see right here, the one and only Kelly Nichols. We've been talking about doing this interview for quite some time.
We have.
And we've gone back and forth. And we finally found a time. He's here in Las Vegas to play tonight.
That's right.
At the Cannery.
That's right.
And
that's right, Jason. We're here tonight.
I like the effect.
Yeah.
I was telling you.
These effects are not very special.
I was telling you before we started, a lot of people request who they like to see on the show.
Yeah.
I get Izzy Stradlin all the time. I get Warren DeMartini all the time. I get Kelly Nichols all the time.
That's great.
And there's a pattern with you guys.
Yeah.
Do you know what the pattern is?
The pattern is we're recluses.
That if you didn't have to talk, you probably wouldn't.
Right.
Yeah. You play your music, do your thing, and live your life.
Right.
But you've got something to promote. And this is the first time that you spoke about this.
Yeah.
And
wait, speaking about what?
New single.
Oh, yeah.
Overdrive.
Overdrive.
October 21st.
Okay, it's out.
From Golden Robot Records. And this is going to be off the second album.
Right.
Does the new album have a title?
Yes.
But we don't know that yet.
Nobody. Well, I know that, but no. We're not going to let that out yet.
Right. So it's to be named. Do we know when the album's going to be released?
We do.
But we don't know. But
we're not saying that either.
But that might be next year.
That's very possible.
Right. So when you're watching this, you'll go to the LA Guns
It'll all come together. Yeah.
Yeah. You'll go to the LA Guns.
We'll be announcing everything shortly after this commercial break.
Yeah. So, but you do know October 21st, Overdrive, first song off the new Riley's LA Guns records. First record didn't have the Riley's thing.
That's right.
Now it's called Riley's LA Guns. LA Guns is LA Guns. I've talked to, we've had Steve on the show, and we had a thorough interview about his career and the LA Guns process. And so I got to ask you a few questions about the past before we talk about the present.
Okay.
Because you don't do many of these.
Right.
It's hard to research you. You can't just go on YouTube and find interviews. You'll find like Headbangers Ball from 30 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I was in the cave in the Himalayas for a long time, so.
You lay low.
I lay low. Yeah.
Well, you're born in France.
Yes.
Which, but only for 2 years.
Yes.
Why was your family in France?
Well, that's where they were from.
Mm-hmm.
My mother's actually Basque, which is between Spain and France, and came here when I was 2 years old on the Queen Mary.
Really?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Right to Harlem,
mm-hmm.
in New York City, and yeah, I don't know. That's kind of how I got here. I didn't really have a choice in saying it.
Yeah, you were a little young,
yeah.
But you didn't stay in New York the first time, right? Where'd you go first?
No, we stayed in New York for a while, and then God, man, I moved to New Jersey for a while, then moved to Georgia for a while. Lived in Georgia for like 10 years, outside of Atlanta and in Atlanta, and then back to New York, and then California, and now back to New York.
Yeah, you're bi-coastal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just to say,
It's the only bi.
In New York's when you start playing music, though, right?
Yes, we actually had a friend who played drums and had a basement, and my brother played guitar in high school growing up, and my brother was really good classical kind of guitar player, played rock and stuff, but very classically trained, and then we had a kid super nice parents, and we'd go down jam in his basement and dress up like Kiss and stuff, and started doing some shows around Long Island.
Yeah, that's funny. That's where you started, and you made a record, right?
That was later on with different people. That was what was that? That was Sweet Pain.
Sweet Pain. How do you forget the name?
Oh my God, I don't want to think about it.
It was a pain.
No, so the guy who sang Corky, Michael Corcione, he worked at a record label, Combat Records, and like Hanoi Rocks was just starting to come out, and the glam thing was starting to take off, and they were in on it because they had because the Slip Disc Records too did mostly imports.
Mm-hmm. Slip Disc, a record store in Long Island, famous.
And they did a lot of imports. You could get like the weird singles and stuff that nobody else had. So they knew all about like this thing coming. So they wanted a band like that, and then we couldn't really find a singer. So Michael ended up singing, and we did one record, and it was just kind of like experience.
But now it's a collector's item.
Yeah.
Do you have one?
I do. I have 2 of them.
All right.
I want to throw them out, but I can't.
See, he's trying to be. Some things that belong in the past, maybe.
Yeah, that definitely belongs in the past.
You're in L.A., and
Okay.
and I don't think everybody knows that you were the original bass player, or one of the original bass players.
One of the original bass players.
In Faster Pussycat.
Right.
Yeah. And so, then the story goes that you were in a motorcycle accident. This story is pretty famous, but I don't think people know exactly what happened. Brent Muscat told me the story.
Oh, yeah, he was there.
He said you guys were on the way to rehearsal.
Right. Well, we just got a record deal with Vicki Hamilton, who was Guns N' Roses' manager, Poison's manager, and stuff. And she had a little barbecue at her house and invited us over and told us, we got you a record deal. I forgot what label it was on. They were on Elektra. So we had so we were all really happy and everything. We finally got a record deal. So after the barbecue, somebody said, let's go rehearse because we're going to do a few shows outside of town just to warm up and then get that going. So on the way to rehearsal, man, like a block away, a car made a left turn in front of me and I hit it doing about 45 miles an hour and broke my left leg in 7 places, compound fracture. And then and I'm in the hospital. I just got a record deal like 20 minutes ago, and now I'm in the hospital in traction, passing out.
The guys described seeing you because they were in a car.
So
You're all traveling.
Yeah,
and they actually watched this accident happen.
Yeah,
how to call, paramedics and things. Do you know the intersection that it was?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sunset and Highland.
Sunset and Highland. See, for a long time, I wonder exactly where it was. I told them they have to go and film the spot. We can put it in right here.
Yeah, Sunset and Highland, man. And there was a gas station at the time, and I ended up in the gas station on the northeast corner there. But yeah, and there were a couple off-duty paramedics that came to the scene then, but I stopped traffic, dude. It was a mess, and they took all my clothes off in the street. I put my leg back together when I landed. I saw my leg was going this way. I was going that way, and I just grabbed my leg, and Tammy was there, and he was putting pressure on my leg, and he had like blood all over him, and I mean, so Tammy and I always had this, this bond of going through this traumatic experience together. We're definitely blood brothers, but they stayed with me, and yeah, I'm sure it was horrific for them to see this, because I went flying. I mean,
yeah,
see you later.
Yeah, no, it's a miracle you lived.
Yeah, it was a miracle I lived, but I had a helmet because I love motorcycle racing, and there was no helmet law in LA at the time. But I love motorcycle racing so much that I don't mind wearing a helmet. And my brother had sent me the one I had in New York like a few days before, and I landed on my temple on my head and flipped over. So without the helmet, I probably wouldn't be doing this right now.
Yeah, helmet saves your life. Yeah.
Yeah.
So those guys continue. Eric Stacey comes in and plays bass, who was the bass player for most of their career, and they play some benefit shows and stuff because you were doing it. You had a ton of surgeries, right?
10
surgeries,
yeah,
and this
10.
gets expensive, and
Yeah.
you're a young guy.
Yeah.
And they played one show, I think it's at the Roxy, and Izzy Stradlin comes up and jams. Ricky Rackman hosted it to sort of.
Candy.
Yeah, Candy, right?
Gilby Clark's band.
Gilby Clark's early band.
Candy, yeah.
And they were raising some money to help out. And at that point, though, Faster Pussycat was moving. They moved on without you.
Yeah, they did. They came in and told me that they had to let me go. They came and visited me. I was in the hospital for like almost 3 months. So they all came in and told me that, they have to move on, and the record company wants them to start recording and get in and everything, which I totally understood. And I'm in traction. I got this metal rod coming down, keeping my leg together. It's hanging. I'm all scraped up on my left side. I had, strawberried all over. I slid, So I was like, I get it, you got to go. But one thing I'll say is that Eric Stacey came in by himself and to introduce him. I didn't know him at the time, to, introduce himself to me and everything. And he was so sweet. He was like, I'm sorry it's under these circumstances and these conditions. But I was like so grateful, he came. I never forgot that he came, by himself to meet me. He was going to take my place. And I thought it was just a sweet thing to do. So, I wished him the best of luck. And I mean, it was great till then. But I mean, I got hit by a car, so it's kind of like party's over.
You were probably not even thinking about playing again at that point.
Well,
walking was probably the first thing you got to worry about.
Actually, you know, riding motorcycle was the first thing I was thinking about. I was having so much fun. I had this brand new GSXR 750 1986 Suzuki, and it was so much fun. And I was just like having the time of my life riding. And I was like, I really just always thought about getting out, you know, to play and stuff, of course. But I just wanted to get out of the hospital. So I tried to keep a positive attitude, and I would call my surgeon, my doctor at home, and I was like, you know, when can we have the next surgery? Because I knew there was going to be multiple steps to this, you know. So I was like, he's like, you got to give the last one a few days to heal before we could do the next one. I was like, man, I just like, you know, everything was just happening. I don't, you know, I don't want to be in the hospital now. I just got signed, and I was like, this is unbelievable, man.
But you weren't scared to ride again when you got out, right?
No, I didn't. I had a cast up to here, and as soon as I got out, my friend had a bike, and I took it around the block with my leg hanging off to the side. Like in first gear, I just went around the block really quick. I was like, yeah, that's my passion, motorcycles. I love it. I still ride to this day. We still
you never gave it up, even the injury that you're
no, I wouldn't give it up. No.
So at this time,
idiot.
Everybody in LA is getting signed at this time. This is the time to. If you're going to get signed, this is the time.
Yeah.
Jesse Pearl was on my show. He says it was like golden tickets being handed out. And you're always worried that if you don't get signed soon, your golden ticket's going to go to somebody else, and eventually you run out. Tell me about how you get involved with LA Guns.
Okay, well, I'd met Tracy like a few times at the Rainbow and stuff, and we kind of had become friends a little bit where I would see him around, and Mick Cripps. There was a store on Melrose that Mick worked at, a clothing store. So sometimes we'd go in there, and eventually met him. And then when I got out of the hospital, I was gonna say I got out of jail. I got out of the hospital the day before Christmas in 1986, and I went out with my friends here in New York, and I got home, and my mom said this guy from LA, Tracy, called, and I was like, oh, I'm in LA Guns, and I just knew it. Like right then, I called him up, and he said. Their guitar player was leaving. Mick was playing bass at the time, so Mick wanted to play guitar, so they needed a bass player. And I said, dude, I've got a cast, you know, to my ass. And he's like, you'll heal. So I just got on a plane and came back to LA. And then we did a couple of shows, and then they kind of had the deal already with Polygram. And they said they needed a bass player. Tracy called me, so that was it. So I flew back, and then a lot of shows I had to do in a cast for a while. So
you had a cane for a while too.
I was 6 years on a cane and crutches. I refractured it twice. You know, I got back in the cast again, and it was a drag. I mean, I'd have to during the day I'd have to kind of keep my leg elevated, and I couldn't really jump around as much as I wanted to. I couldn't put on the cool boots that I had. It was like I had to go through this. I went through the most of it with a bum leg. I mean, there were times when we played with Def Leppard and we toured with Def Leppard in the round, and I could feel my leg just not solid, and I got to go out there and I was just gonna snap in front of 30,000 people. It was
So you were pretty much hiding at the injury, though, because people didn't know. It's not like now you go on the internet, you find out what happened to everybody the day before. Then people probably thought you were just, playing through. They did not know you're playing through a lot of pain.
Yeah, played through a lot of pain. Yeah, it snapped again. We played with Michael Schenkner at the Michael Schenker group at the Santa Monica Civic Center, and I just took a wrong step, and I felt like somebody just hit me with a baseball bat in the bottom of my leg. So I just I stopped. And finished the song, and it went dark, and I hobbled off to the side of the stage, and I knew something was wrong. So I finished the 3 songs from the side of the stage. Nobody knew what happened. I just disappeared, and then Motley's security guy Fred at the time, he took me to the hospital, and he was going 90 miles an hour, and I'm bouncing in the back of his truck, and I refractured it. It was it broke again, so I had to go back into a cast and stuff. So yeah, it's it's on and off dealing with it all the time.
Yeah, while your success is climbing, you're
I'm dealing with this. Yeah, it was a drag, but it's all right.
So most people watching this, if they tuned in to watch an interview with Kelly Nichols, the success of LA Guns, the history. Interview with Steve, we cover it too. I want to move. I don't want to keep you here all day. I know you don't do that many interviews, and I'm worried that we won't get another one. So we got to.
No problem.
We got to hit the targets. You leave after Vicious Circle.
Yeah.
What happened there?
After Vicious Circle, well, you know, Nirvana, I guess. You know, I felt like it had run its course. You know, and then you know, Phil actually left first.
Right.
You know, so then we were getting like other. Tracy was bringing in other people, and it was a lot of the you know, Pantera like kind of stuff, which I not, you know, it's not for me really. So I didn't think it was LA Gun style at all and everything. So a few of those guys came, and then I had a friend who offered me like a computer graphics job at an office place, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna take that, man. I'm kind of like, you know, that was at 10 years of it almost at that point. I felt like, you know, I always wanted the band to just, you know, always climb and always do our best and try to see how far we can get. And I think like once we plateaued, it was like, you know, I feel like it just run its course. It was time to try something else in life. You know?
I don't think that a lot of people realize that you try to stay into the hardcore era, the record that I can't listen to, but you were trying. You were involved in that process right before that was released. American Hardcore.
I don't really know that record too much, but I know that it was like getting, you know, heavier and
that's
heavier.
The Pantera sound.
Yeah.
Chris Van Dahl was the singer, but you tried to stay for a while. It seems.
I tried, but I don't know. It just kind of wasn't. It was getting heavier and heavier, and it was just not really like what I thought we were, and it was you know, it was mutating into something else, just to kind of stay with the trend instead of like really staying true to who we were. Kind of felt like we were trying to follow this more heavier trend of these, you know, grunge heavy bands that I didn't really feel like that's what we were, you know.
Yeah, I think you made the right decision.
Thanks.
At that point begins the revolving door of LA Guns.
Right.
While you're not in the band and you're seeing Ralph from Steel Panther and whoever, no offense to any of these people, Jizzy Pearl, are you thinking what happened to LA Guns?
No, you know, I'm always wishing them the best success, because I feel like, you know, we all put a lot of work into it, and it was what it was. You know, we tried our best. We wrote the best songs we could as songwriters. You know, we tried to do every interview at the time and meet the people and always be kind, and so you know, when I was out of it, I always wished them success. I want them to be successful. I want them to keep going. You know, and I went to a couple of shows when they were playing close to where I lived, and jumped on stage, did a couple of songs. You know, so I really we never really even had an issue till this, you know, till this Riley's LA Guns thing came, of, you know, getting along. Really, you know, I think we got along really well back then, even though, you know, everybody was the way they are, but it was still, you know, manageable and still like a fun project. But
well, in my opinion, they've gone completely insane since then, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
1999, you do get back together. I was fortunate to see it. I saw it at Brooklyn L'Amour's. I saw it here in Vegas. Probably the last time that lineup played together. Probably the last time that lineup will ever play together.
Right.
And you guys did it, and maybe, I think a lot of bands get back together, and it's not exactly what they remember. Some guys can't handle it. You went from playing, you know, get on the bus and police places, and now you're playing bowling alleys and pizza places and things. And so that reunion was short. What made you decide that time to give it a break?
Man, it's a history lesson. I don't really, I don't know if we really thought it was going to be a full-time thing again, you know. And I don't know, like, I don't really remember. I think it's hard to say exactly what was going on there, but I just think like I was really over it, you know, at that point. Like, and then I had a kid in 2001, so I you know, I didn't want to miss that. I didn't want to be on a tour bus just driving, you know, playing and missing that. So that was totally like the nail in the coffin for me to stop, you know, playing and stuff. So I guess we always hoped that it would do better than it did, but, you know, just things happen, I guess, you know.
Yeah, Mick stayed a little longer, but even he eventually stepped aside. You mentioned you had a daughter at the time.
Yeah.
You're doing your own career. You were married. Your wife's
not married.
Not married at the point?
No, never married.
Never married, okay.
Never married,
so but your girlfriend's daughter is Emma Roberts, and you were also involved in raising her, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And so that was your priority at the time.
Yeah, family was, yeah.
And you were living on the East Coast, and so things.
Yeah, well, West Coast mostly, and then East Coast eventually.
Okay, yes, started on the West Coast.
Yeah, still a lot of West Coast. Yeah.
And so, so those guys continue doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
And like you said, everyone was friendly. You'd come up and jam here and there.
Right.
When does it change from being friendly? I know that Steve and Tracy had issues. We know that it's in the interview. They talk about it. They didn't get along. Steve got offers to play shows. They, particularly M3, had a problem with Phil and Tracy. They wanted Steve to put together his own band, and at that point, he was going to do it with Scotty Griffin.
Well, I think that the other guys were asked to play M3, and they didn't want to do it.
Right, they backed out.
They backed out. So the guys who run M3 asked Steve to, put a band together with some of the guys who have come along through the years and played, and just come and do a set. It's our wheelhouse. It's all the bands from that time period and everything. So that's when he called me. So that's and then my daughter had just been going to college, so I was like, it's a good time, So it was just going to be one show. That's what it was going to be.
Right, you were going to do the M3 show. It would be fun. At that point, you guys were looking for singers, and Steve did approach some of the usual suspects and some of the former LA Guns. There's about 100 people they could pick from.
Yeah.
Although in my world, there's 5, and that's it.
Oh wow.
But that's. I'm accepting of the new stuff, hearing new stuff. But anyway, at that point, we were looking for singers, and I suggested Kurt Frolic, who was from here in Las Vegas, and I used him to sub in bands and things, and knew that he was a really talented singer and songwriter, guitar player. And he had a band called the Underground Rebels that had some success in Canada. Loving Dead was also his other band. And so I was trying to push Steve. I thought he would be good, and I knew that he wouldn't be a Phil Lewis impersonator, and that maybe some people would take a minute to get used to that. As I said to you, and I've said to Steve and everyone else, the fans who are coming to see Riley's LA Guns is a younger audience, and not the old fans are there too, but they like this new music. And when people come to see the shows, you guys aren't afraid to play the new music. It's not an LA Guns tribute show.
Absolutely not. No.
And I think you probably like it better that way too.
Yeah. Well, when Steve, called me and asked me about this, like, I didn't want to just do it just to do it. I wanted to make sure that there was going to be like good people involved. So there was a different guitar player and a different singer kind of penciled in to do the project. I was like, we're not just going to go up on stage with, there's got to be some kind of like structure to this. There's got to be some kind of
long game.
Well, not even a long game, but I got to know that, these guys are good. That they can, Tracy's a great guitar player, so the guitar players kind of be good, Phil's a good singer, so this guy can't just be up like, thrown together. I don't need to go up there and do one show that's just thrown together, I don't need that in my life. I don't need any of this to go on stage or any of it, I only do it because it's fun. But those two guys backed out. So one of them had some conflicting issues, and then the other guy was in another band that was already kind of starting to do something. So they backed out. So then I was like kind of worried. So then he said that, Scotty Griffin I knew, and he said, what about Scotty on guitar? And I never knew even Scotty played guitar, So that was great because I know I get along good with Scotty. He's a super sweet guy. So I was like, oh man, if he could do it, that's excellent. And then he brought in Kurt, so Kurt flew in from Florida to LA to audition, and as soon as we met him and hung out with him and talked to him and everything, I knew that he would be a great spot, fill a great spot. So it wasn't just to kind of just get up there and throw something together, like it had to be, I don't want to go up there and just embarrass myself for any reason.
Well, you stayed out of this for such a long time, so to come back, it would have to be something that you want to do. 2 records later, you showed it. In that time, there's also no member changes. The guys that you started with are still there. The other band probably can't say that, or even close to say that. Or even close to say that. But so it gets interesting at this point. Tracy and Steve had a deal where they both owned the LA Guns name. They dispute this. Things happened. There was legal disputes. Again, this is all in the interview with Steve as well. My opinion at the time was that there is no lawsuit. People hear these things and they think, well, there's a suit, but there's no verdict. People think a judge made a decision. This is a settlement. It's easier to call it Riley's LA Guns and move on. No one's making any money but lawyers. And the fans, you you never tried to say we're a different LA Guns. Every advertisement for your band said the members of the band. There was never any trying to make people think you don't know who you're going to see. If you went to see Riley's LA Guns and you didn't know who's in the band, it was your fault for not looking because you didn't hide it.
Yeah, absolutely. I do all the artwork for the band and all the social media posts, and I did the album covers and all that stuff. So I want to make sure that, you know, I put everybody's name. So we tried to, you know, help ease the confusion, you know, because, like, you know, I'm a fan too of certain bands and music and stuff like that. So I felt, you know, yeah, we're definitely not trying to pull wool over anybody's eyes. This is another project that's just kind of like has happened off of this, you know, and just to make sure that everybody knows. So you're not, you know, I don't want you to come there if that's not what you want to see. You know, I don't want to like fool you into coming to see us and thinking you're expecting somebody who's not going to be there. So yeah, so I put the names and stuff and try to make it as clear as I can for everybody to know, you know, what it is. But you know, Steve being in the band so long, you know, it's like you know, he's earned that name. You know, we wrote a lot of the songs. We're only doing songs that Steve and I worked on and recorded with the band, you know, during our set. And you know, me and Mick wrote Ballad of Jayne. It's like, you know, we wrote that was our biggest hit. And
that's a song now that everybody tries to claim they wrote, it seems.
Yeah.
Right? You want to set it straight?
Yeah, bro, I'll set it straight. You know, Tracy didn't want it on the record. There's the facts, man. You know, didn't want it on the record. You know, Mick and I wrote the music, and I wrote the lyrics and the melody, and Phil wrote the last verse, and that's the gospel.
Is it about Jayne Mansfield?
It is. No, it's about her husband, Mickey Hargitay. So we were in the studio. We had one day left. The music was done, right? We had recorded Ballad of Jayne, the music, but it wasn't called Ballad of Jayne. It was called something else that Phil had done. And I wasn't crazy about the lyrics or the melody that he had come up with. So I asked him. I was like, you know, we have one more night in the studio. Tomorrow's the last day. I was like, you mind if I take this home and try to come up with something else? And he was like, yeah, cool, go ahead, right? So he came over to my house at like 3 or 4 in the morning, and I played it for him. And what was happening was, like, you know, I had there was a special about Jayne Mansfield on TV, and it was interviewing, you know, showing footage of her, but interviewing her husband, Mickey Hargitay, at the time.
He was a bodybuilder.
He was a bodybuilder guy. Man, you know your shit. And it was really about his perspective about how it's, you know, whatever, how many years later, 50 years later, and the guy was still getting emotional. Like, it's like, you know, you never get over something like that. You know what I mean? So that was the inspiration. It was more, you know, it was the Ballad of Jayne, but it was mostly based on how someone who loses someone still feels about that person. So that's...
See, we needed you to set this straight because those guys have so many different stories. They all tell you how they wrote that song.
Yeah, that's kind of disheartening. I've had fans who come up and say, you know, that, you know, Tracy said he wrote it, or, you know, I don't know if that's true or not, but that's disheartening, you know, because he didn't.
Yeah, though those guys have a history.
Okay, but you know,
those guys may have a history. Paul Mars Black interview on the show also. Those guys may have a history of claiming they wrote certain things.
That's possible. I joined the band the day they let Paul Mars go, so I never really got to meet him or know him at all. So I don't really know, like, before that, you know, before I joined, what they had already kind of were doing.
Right.
You know. I think I saw them once, but I really, you know, didn't know the songs or anything like that at that point. So I don't really know anything.
Yeah, you can watch that interview to see. That's not your problem. There's enough going on.
For once, it's not my problem.
But so here we are in modern day. You know, anyone who was in LA Guns will say that Steve really was the glue. He was doing the business. He was driving the van. He was booking this is the later years. That all those lineups. If Tracy would left, Steve would stay in. So whatever Steve and Tracy's issues are, that's a separate issue. They did have this contract. Anyway, easier to call it Riley's LA Guns. It doesn't seem like it's affected or hurt anything. Those guys have cranked out music. All of a sudden, though, they've taken what I consider the low road. You guys have taken the high road. There was no mudslinging. There was no insulting. There was no, which they did constantly. Yeah. And one of the things that kind of bothered me the most was all of a sudden your musicianship was an issue to them. All of a sudden Phil Lewis is telling us about he's got a better bass player, great. But what I don't understand about that is, I don't know who the guy is, but who cares? He's playing songs that you wrote, and he's playing bass parts that you wrote, and they were good enough to sell a million or a few records each. Why do I care about somebody who's not the guy? No offense, maybe the guy's great, but to suddenly insult you, you got to be pissed.
You know, really not pissed. And the reason we don't ever say anything negative about them is that I don't want the fans to think that everything about LA Guns is negative.
Mm-hmm.
I can't have that side be a negative and this side be a negative. You know what I mean? I don't want it all to be negative about the band. There has to be a positive side about it. So, you know, I'm sorry, someone's knocking at the door. Pieces here. But those are really, you know, it bothers a little bit.
Should I get?
No,
there we go.
Sorry to interrupt. We can't have smoking in here.
Oh, okay. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, there's no smoking in,
Oh.
in the building.
Oh, that's not what we heard. I'm sorry about that.
Thanks.
Okay, I put it out.
A pack later. He's already smoked 2 packs. They just
Okay.
figured it out.
Right? That's not what they told us.
There goes my whole effect too. You know, we had a whole thing going.
Anyway, that's why we're not going to take the time and be involved. And, you know, it's a hobby at this point. We get together every few weeks. We do a show. You know what I mean? It's like we're just trying to have fun and play music and songs that we worked on that, you know, are part of our history. And, you know, we needed to keep LA Guns in the name. It's somehow, or else we have nothing. And for a guy, you know, for Steve, who's been in the band over 30 something years, to walk away from that, just, you know, he wouldn't do it. We'd rather, you know, not do it. So we worked it out. You know, we put Riley's in it. We were all cool with that. We don't care. At least the fans know this is what's happening now. You know, we're here tonight with Great White. There's a lot of bands. It happens after, you know, 30-year careers. You know, some people, they drift apart and things happen. So, but, you know, I just don't want all to be surrounded by negativity, and I want to keep positivity for you know, some part of it.
When I think it's working, and I think it's helping Riley's LA Guns. One of the things I said to me when it started, I go, Riley's LA Guns, the first show. I go, this is kind of like a spite band. It's like, well, we'll put a band together and we'll play the show. But what happens is people really liked it, and people really like seeing you back as well. But what also happens is the other guys, and I believe they I'll say it bad because you can't. They really make fools of themselves. The things that they say are stupid. The fights that they choose are stupid. This is my opinion, not Kelly's. And it only makes people want to watch Riley's LA Guns more. I see this. I hear this. People watch my show say that they think, well, it's the singer and the guitar player. That's the band I want to see. And then some people don't like the new music. So maybe some do. I don't know. I don't listen to it. But their music. There's this thing where maybe I'll listen to the other band because I'm sick of these guys constantly going on message boards and websites and insulting and being negative. And also, if you're a fan of a band, you don't want to hear the other guys that you grew up liking insulted, because why can't you like everybody? LA Guns was a band.
Yeah.
And so I think their negativity only adds to the building of Riley's LA Guns. And here we are, second album. And yes, we're talking about it now because you don't do many of these. But some of that drama is going down. But I gotta ask you, you said you kind of ignored all the member changes. You wish them well, but now it's gotten even weirder. Tracy Guns is playing shows in a bathroom.
Yeah.
What are you thinking when you see that?
Well, you know, I mean, if that's, you know, a medical condition, I mean, I'm not going to really say anything about it. You know, at least he played. And I think I remember him having issues like that, you know, long ago. So I don't think he's making it up. But, you know, you know, as long as the fans don't feel, you know, that they're getting taken advantage of, you know, then, you know, rock and roll is a strange animal anyway. And, you know, all kinds of things happen. I mean, so, you know, Spinal Tap, right?
It's a little Spinal Tap.
It's a little Spinal Tap. It never ends, but.
And he did battle anxiety forever, like you said, you knew. And it's not making fun of it. But if you're the promoter or someone who bought tickets, maybe it's a strange thing that you have a guy playing a bathroom. But that's just one of many of these hijinks that have been happening.
Yeah.
And you've got to sit there and think, you know, hold the course for your band and show people what you guys have and let them do whatever
Yeah, we try to really not even think about what they're doing, unless I hear it or some friend will tell me, "Did you hear this? Did you hear that?" Then, but usually I don't.
You've got to be. You got to like. People
just
call
like,
you. You must go. What?
I'm just like shaking my head, but just not following their path, at all. And like I said, this is a hobby for us at this point, where we're just really doing it for the music. We're not doing it for the money. We're not doing it to sit at airports and stuff like that. We want to get together and at this age to be able to still go out and play some songs and make people happy and meet cool people and meet old friends. Met somebody at the Mohegan Sun who showed me a picture from '86, of him and I together. So, it's cool for that. That's the only reason to go through this, to, all the traveling and stuff for a day. And,
I tell people watching, when your favorite band comes to your town, you better go, because they don't realize how many planes you sit on, how many flights for one show.
Yeah.
It's not like the old days you get off the bus here in the city.
Yeah.
A lot goes into the one show, and so go support your favorite bands.
We did Sturgis last year. That was like 25 plane flights to get the 4 guys and a crew guy there. 25 plane flights there and back. So you got to switch planes. It's 4 flights each way. Times 5 is 25 flights, man. So 20, 25. So it's a lot of work, but it's, we do it because it's fun. And at this point, it's not going to be around forever.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not going to, something you got to worry about in 10, 20 years from now. We're just doing it now while we can. And, there's still some interest and stuff. And we never played casinos before. This is a whole new thing.
Which is nice. Playing in casinos is a good way to do it. You can stay in the hotel, play. They usually take care of your food. But so people really enjoy that first album. You worked that out. You had to do that fast. It was a lot of music also from some of your pasts. Steve had some really old songs. Everyone had some ideas. You brought in some ideas. And you got that record out and showed that
7 days we could do it.
Yeah, 7 days.
Okay, so we just played Mohegan Sun like 2 weeks ago, and we haven't seen each other in 9 months. No rehearsals, 20-minute sound check, and everybody just learns their parts and comes out and, I don't really think I could do that with anybody else, But and then the records you have 7 days. The budgets are, not like they were in the '80s. You got 2 days of rehearsal, so we do spend like a couple of months before, like we know we're going to do the record. We spend a couple of months sending songs back and forth to each other. Send them a lot to Kurt. Work with Kurt a lot, and then if they're good, then we send them to the other ones. And then Scotty writes his parts, and Steve puts his parts. And then we get into the studio. You have 7 days, so you use like every minute of that time to the very end to try to make it the best you can. So
second record now,
same thing.
You had a little bit more time at least to write. COVID happens, thing happens. Everyone has ideas. Now you can really pitch together.
Yeah, but even if you have a lot of time to write, like I don't really, I can't put a song together unless I have a deadline. I know that we're going into the studio on this date, and I got to submit these last songs by this time. So, or else I just noodle and have parts parts and parts and parts everywhere. But once I know that I have a cutoff time, and I want some songs on the records, that's when I really try to finish them and stuff.
Yeah.
I can't do it unless I have like a deadline.
Yeah. That's what a lot of people I think feel that way. Do homework the night before. Got to get it done. So, okay, I know a few people have heard this record. President of Golden Robot Records, Mark Alexander, he's been on the show. He loves the record.
Okay,
Says it's great. And you guys were very creative with vinyl. You had red, white, and blue vinyl on the first record. Will you do things like that on this record as well?
Yes, there's definitely a few different color vinyls, and there's a couple other surprises for sure.
Yeah,
there's some good surprises.
He's very guarded.
I am like Eisenhower on D-Day. I don't say nothing until the very last second. But I got to make sure that it's all confirmed, right? Before I say anything, I want to make sure that it's confirmed, that it's like set in stone, that I can post it on social media and let the fans know. It's not like I'm trying to hide it. I just want to make sure that things aren't going to change, or if I announce something and then it's not going to come out.
Right.
So, but yeah, we do have we have different color vinyls, and we have a couple extra surprises that are going to be coming out.
Records sold really well, and I think part of that is people, the collectible part of it was really exciting to people, and to have all these different cool things, and you had them at shows, and so I think that'll happen again on this one, and people know what to expect a little bit, and are looking forward to it. And that's why you're doing these interviews. Believe me, if you could be in your room right now, you would. But October 21st, we're going to hear Overdrive, first song.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
And then at some point soon, you'll hear the new album, and he'll tell you the title and all those things. You check LA Guns social media.
Yeah, Facebook page, and then the website, Riley'sLAGuns.com, and then on Facebook, it's Riley's LA Guns too, I think, on Facebook.
I joke with my friends and I say, when you're the cool guy in the band, do you know you're the cool guy in the band?
No.
Does Izzy Stradlin know he's the cool one? Do you know you're the cool one?
No, definitely not. I'm sure Izzy does, but no.
You see people say all the time, like, and I think it's because the way you've lived your life.
I just want to have fun, man. Just trying to have a good time, get through it, you know?
Mm-hmm. This show is called Waste Some Time with Jason Green. It's based off a punk song I played bass on called I Just Want to Waste Some Time with You, which was a kind of a tribute to the Ramones, and I also got it from Baby Baby by the Vibrators. And of course, your song Ain't Nothing Better to Do was a little bit of an influence in this.
Oh, how funny.
So yeah, in that punk way. What before we wrap up, tell me a little bit about what you do now besides music.
I do graphic arts. I have my own company and stuff. I mean, I was working on a shark cage diving boat for a couple of years out in Montauk. So, you know, I do like whatever it takes to put gas in the hog, man. You know, and keep the kids clothed and fed. But, you know, I stay busy.
Yeah, but you're doing things you love, it seems.
Yeah, I like to be to be creative in some way or another. So I got on the computer in '93. My brother was already designing stuff on the Mac, so got into that, and you know, I do whatever merchandise. Montauk Salvage is my company, and you know, we do whatever we can for people. You know, done children's books, not really children's books, but educational books and stuff for kids, and menus, fucking anything, flyers, ads, clothing. I don't know, whatever, you know, we could get.
You found you were good at it. It'll work.
Yeah, I like to be creative in some way or another, you know, so that's what I'm doing.
All right, and you'll play the show tonight, and you turn around and you go back.
Yeah, that's it. Back into my cave.
Yeah, back into the cave. This is it. You enjoy them while you see them, because it could be a minute until the record comes out and we see you again.
Yeah.
So anyway, Kelly, thank you so much for doing this. I'm really glad that we were able to catch up and now do it in person too.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. Thank you for being patient. I appreciate it.
Yeah, looking forward to the show tonight. We'll show some clips of that. So.
Okay, great,
All right,
man.
thanks,
All right, take care, everybody. Thanks.